end up in a heated clash with someone you'd least prefer, and he brings him to the ground. It's wild how history seems to always repeat itself. Steven Adams has been involved in some of the NBA's most unforgettable moments. And now, once again, he's trending for yet another intense standoff, this time involving Mason Plumlee. The clips are circulating everywhere, and honestly, it's the kind of footage you find yourself replaying. Whether you view it as just another rough basketball scuffle or the beginning of a serious rivalry, one thing is certain. This won't be the last time Steven Adams captures attention for his incredible power and unyielding resilience. In this video, we're diving into what led to the altercation. Steven Adams has shown time and again his resilience in intense matchups, much like a wrestler holding his ground. In a heated altercation, Adams and Mason Plumlee found themselves entangled, with Adams eventually bringing Plumlee to the floor. Plumlee ended up on top of Adams, creating a scene that resembled a sumo bout. This unexpected skirmish during what started as a routine rebound contest led to both players being thrown out of the game during the second quarter. With just under 3 minutes remaining in the first half, the two big men got caught up while scrambling for a rebound. Instead of disengaging, they stayed locked together as they drifted further from the hoop. The intensity escalated when Adams hoisted Plumlee off the ground, sending both athletes crashing to the floor. As Plumlee came down atop Adams, the confrontation continued, prompting players, coaches, and officials to rush in and restore order. By the time the dust settled, Plumlee had sustained a cut above his right eye, leaving blood trickling down his forehead. He later dismissed the severity of the injury, reassuring everyone it wasn't anything significant. Upon reviewing the incident, the officials issued double technical fouls to both players and expelled them for engaging in a physical altercation. After the game, Plumlee clarified that the situation arose when the two got tangled up, mentioning that Adams, true to form, had been aggressive in rebounding. Plumlee stated he had simply tried to match that level of physicality. When questioned about how the situation escalated so rapidly, he remarked that Adams pursued every rebound, whether it was justified or not, and that he felt compelled to respond with equal intensity. Adams declined to speak with the media post-game, while both head coaches expressed surprise over the ejections. Houston's Ime Udoka commented that it appeared the players had wrestled briefly after pulling each other down, but found the punishment excessive given the nature of the scuffle. Similarly, Phoenix coach Mike Budenholzer regarded it as a case of two competitive players getting tangled up physically. On the other hand, Devin Booker argued Plumlee should not have been tossed. Admitting to possible bias, Booker suggested that Adams had deliberately attempted to slam Plumlee to the floor, leaving Plumlee on top in the process. Later, lead referee Tony Brothers explained the decision, stating that the player's conduct was classified as fighting, which, by rule, necessitated automatic ejections. Wow. After seeing that replay, it's hard to believe there isn't some kind of off-court tension between those two. Seriously, what did we just witness? That wasn't merely a tussle over a rebound. There was something deeper going on there. Whatever sparked that scuffle could have been resolved pretty easily, but instead, it blew up into what can only be described as a wrestling match. Steven Adams didn't even seem like he was trying to hurt Plumlee, but Plumlee clearly wasn't having any of it. The second Adams grabbed hold of him, Plumlee switched straight into fight mode. Honestly, Steven Adams might just be the strongest guy in the NBA right now, because think about it. How does he hit the ground first? Yet it's Plumlee who ends up leading? Have you even taken a good look at Adams' brow? That guy seems like he was crafted in a completely different age. A living, breathing ogre, orc, or even a Neanderthal, just raw, unfiltered power. If you're even considering squaring up to him, you're either ending up with a massive lump on your head or flat out unconscious. And trust me, the internet is well aware of the situation. One Reddit user perfectly summarized it, saying Plumlee should be glad Adams slipped. Trying to slam him would only result in you getting slammed yourself. Another user wrote that Steven Adams actually stopped Plumlee from taking a brutal fall a few years back. The situation is hilarious. While these statements hit home, another fan hilariously noted that Plumlee seemed angry over that save, probably because now he's stuck playing for the team of someone who showed him up. Reflecting on it now, does this even add up? The very same guy who once literally prevented Plumlee from suffering a nasty fall years ago is now facing off against him over something completely trivial. What a twist in the narrative. That would be rebound number 13. There's Mason Plumlee again, crashing the offensive boards. Adams and Plumlee collide as Plumlee goes up high, and Adams, ever mindful, checks to see if he's alright. For those who might not recall, Adams' heroic move was straight out of an action thriller. Back in 2019, Plumlee went for a dunk, got fouled in midair, lost his footing, and things were on the verge of turning disastrous. He was about to crash face first onto the hardwood. It was looking that bad. But just in time, Adams swept him like some kind of hero on an NBA rescue mission, grabbed him midair, and gently lowered him to the floor as if handling a sack of groceries. The move was so flawlessly executed that even the commentators needed a moment to wrap their heads around what just happened. It's tough to measure exactly how much Adams' quick reaction made a difference, but hey, it's the gesture that counts. Plumlee avoided a nasty fall and walked off without a scratch. To top it off, Adams gave him a hand up afterward, living up to his reputation as the ultimate big guy with a big heart. But did the basketball gods reward Adams for his act of kindness? Not a chance. The Thunder still fell short, losing 109-98. Even though his team didn't come out on top that night, Adams could at least hold his head high, knowing he had done a good deed. Years later, fans still fondly remember and praise Adams' thoughtful moment of sportsmanship. A commenter wrote, "Humanity still exists after all." Another chimed in with, "That's the most incredible display of sportsmanship I've witnessed in years. I'm a fan now, no question." Praise continued to flood in, with yet another person posting on X, "That's one of the most elegant gestures I've ever seen a player make in a long time." Across any sport, Adams proved you can be both tough and empathetic toward your opponent. Jumping to the latest game, though, you might wonder if Adams is regretting that heroic moment, thinking, "Why did I even catch this guy back then?" Instead of receiving appreciation, he's now facing a scuffle as though some long-standing rivalry has been simmering. Perhaps it was just emotions running high, or maybe Plumlee has been waiting for a chance to retaliate for that humbling moment. Regardless of the cause, there's no doubt that the rebound battle the next time these two meet will have everyone's attention. Steven Adams has endured his share of on-court blows throughout his career, and honestly, this is unlikely to be the last. This guy is essentially the NBA's go-to target for physical punishment. Yet, against all odds, he's the one who never falters. You can throw hands, shove him, or even drag him down, but Adams just absorbs it all and keeps going. Battered, but unbroken. Anyone who has seen the Thunder in action knows that Steven Adams stands out as one of the league's toughest players. His knack for enduring and delivering physical play, while thriving in a league that increasingly prioritizes finesse, is nothing short of remarkable. There simply aren't many slow, hulking big men left in today's game. Then again, Adams is far from sluggish. His agility for his stature can take opponents by surprise. What doesn't come as a shock, though, is his ability to handle blows as well as anyone in the league. Take a moment to rewind to May 1st, 2014, a high-stakes Game 6 between the Memphis Grizzlies and Oklahoma City Thunder in the opening round of the NBA playoffs. The series was a nail-biter, with both teams standing at 3-2, making this matchup a potential decider for the Grizzlies. With 6 minutes and 42 seconds left in the fourth quarter, the intensity reached a boiling point. Steven Adams, the rookie center for the Thunder, had earned a reputation throughout the season for his tough, physical approach to the game, often irritating opposing players with his relentless and occasionally borderline aggressive style. On this particular evening, Zach Randolph, the Grizzlies' dependable power forward, finally cracked under the pressure. As the two big men tussled for position, a familiar sight during the playoffs, Randolph's frustration with Adams' constant physicality came to a head. Losing his cool, Randolph lashed out, first driving his left elbow into Adams' midsection, followed by a strike to Adams' jaw with his right hand. Despite the clear clash, the referees appeared to miss the full scope of what had occurred and allowed Randolph to remain in the game. However, upon reviewing the incident after the match, the NBA, steadfast in enforcing its policies against violent conduct, issued a suspension to Randolph for the critical Game 7. This decision proved to be a major setback for the Grizzlies. Randolph had been contributing an impressive 18.2 points and 8.7 rebounds per game throughout the series, making him an indispensable part of Memphis' strategy on both offense and defense. His absence in the pivotal Game 7 created a significant gap that the team struggled to overcome. The decisive matchup took place in Oklahoma City, and without Randolph in the lineup, the Grizzlies faced an immense challenge. The Thunder capitalized on the situation, earning a commanding 120-109 win and securing their spot in the next round. What was striking during the game was how little attention was paid to what had unfolded. Why? Because Steven Adams responded like only Steven Adams could, calm and collected, showing no reaction, no protests, nothing. So it must not have hurt, right? Wrong. It was definitely painful. But staying true to Adams' usual attitude, he chose not to blow it out of proportion, at least until it began interfering with his daily life. Speaking with ESPN's Royce Young, he revealed that the real challenge arose the following morning. His jaw was so tender that even eating waffles became impossible. He confessed, with a chuckle, that it genuinely annoyed him because of his deep love for food. And let's face it, food is sacred, especially for a big guy, and even more so when that food happens to be waffles. They're arguably the ultimate breakfast option, far outshining pancakes. Honestly, anyone would be upset at being robbed of such a culinary treasure. The crazy thing is, Adams wasn't merely hamming it up for the cameras. That's just his natural personality shining through. The man takes a punch to the face and hardly flinches, but as soon as it interferes with his meal, that crosses the line. However, what stands out even more is this surprising detail. A significant number of players have been ejected over the years for striking Steven Adams. From early on, Adams distinguished himself with his rugged playing style. Towering at 7 feet tall and exceeding 250 pounds, he gained a reputation for his formidable defense and dominance in the paint. His impact on the game was transformative, quickly establishing him as a pivotal player for the Thunder. Nevertheless, his aggressive approach often led to confrontations, as his persistent defense and physical tactics left opponents increasingly exasperated. One memorable clash took place during a game against the Golden State Warriors. Draymond Green, a player notorious for his intense demeanor, found himself caught up in a heated battle with Adams during a game marked by its rough physicality. The two were engaged in a constant struggle for position throughout the contest, as Adams' relentless defensive efforts posed a challenging obstacle for Green. As the game progressed, simmering tensions between the two escalated dramatically, ultimately leading to Green landing a kick on Adams amidst the scramble for a loose ball. Witnessing the incident firsthand, the referees acted swiftly, ejecting Green from the game without hesitation. Over time, Adams' career saw a growing list of players who had been thrown out of games following heated exchanges with him, further cementing his reputation as the imposing figure nicknamed the Kiwi Enforcer. On December 19, 2014, in yet another memorable encounter, Nick Young and Steven Adams clashed during a matchup between the Lakers and Thunder. Known for his flamboyant demeanor, Young didn't take kindly to Adams' relentless defense. Frustration boiled over in the fourth quarter, prompting Young to retaliate by throwing a sharp elbow directly at Adams' throat. Entering only his second NBA season, Adams had already established a name for himself across the league. To some, he was seen as a tough and rugged competitor, but for others, his playing style sparked questions. Zach Randolph made his feelings known on the eve of the Grizzlies' first clash with the Thunder following their elimination by OKC in the 2014 playoffs. He suggested that Adams' actions weren't coincidental, citing the number of players suspended because of him as evidence. Randolph urged the league to scrutinize Adams' behavior, questioning why so many seemed to have run-ins with the center. Naturally, Randolph had personal experience to draw from. He was suspended for the decisive Game 7 of that playoff series after throwing a punch at Adams. Looking back, he acknowledged that he had fallen right into Adams' hands. Speaking to reporters in Memphis, Randolph accepted full accountability, admitting that at his age, he shouldn't have let anyone disrupt his rhythm that way. He shared that it had bothered him throughout the summer, as he believed it was part of Oklahoma City's game plan and that he had fallen for it. As for Adams, he predictably dismissed any notion that he had orchestrated a scheme to get Randolph ejected. Defending himself against claims of dirty play, he maintained that he was simply playing hard. Prior to their preseason home opener against Memphis, Adams called the incident unfortunate, but underscored that his focus remained on the game. Asked about his approach on the court, he kept it straightforward, describing it as aggressive. He explained that he simply followed his coach's instructions, whether it involved hustling or crashing the boards, and put in maximum effort. When it came to why his playing style seemed to irritate so many rivals, Adams didn't have much of an answer, and truthfully, he didn't seem to mind. He admitted that he had no clue, but intended to stick with whatever his coach advised him to do. Fans, meanwhile, are left speculating about what exactly it is about Adams that drives others over the edge, since he leads the league in triggering suspensions for opponents per 36 minutes rather than scoring. One Reddit user offered a particularly blunt explanation, stating, "It's because he shows zero emotion and seems immune to pain." Another commenter chimed in, "He's mastered the art of subtle cheap shots, just aggressive enough to annoy other players, but not enough to alert the refs." A third observed, "This guy has taken punches and elbows to the face at least 5 or 6 times without so much as flinching, like he's superhuman." Regardless of the opinions, one thing is clear. Steven Adams isn't about to change his approach. Sure, his involvement in the recent scuffle with Mason Plumlee has dominated headlines lately, but let's not kid ourselves. This fight doesn't even rank among the wildest moments in NBA history. The league has witnessed far more extreme incidents over the years. And if you thought this one was chaotic, wait until you hear about some of the most unforgettable clashes in NBA history. Confrontations and fighting in the NBA's past is not only filled with iconic performances and legendary athletes, but also plenty of fierce rivalries and dramatic on-court altercations. Revisiting the formative years of the league unearths a history of clashes that laid the groundwork for the intense rivalries we see today. The NBA of the 1970s was a far cry from the modern game, defined by a grittier style of play and far fewer rules to temper physical disputes. One of the earliest infamous altercations unfolded in 1977 during a matchup between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Houston Rockets. The situation spiraled out of control when a heated disagreement erupted between Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Kevin Cunningham. The already tense scene escalated drastically when Lakers forward Kermit Washington threw a catastrophic punch at Rudy Tomjanovich of the Rockets, who had been rushing in to intervene. The strike inflicted serious facial injuries on Tomjanovich, putting his life in jeopardy and shocking the basketball community. Dubbed the Punch, this event prompted the league to adopt stricter protocols to address on-court violence. As the NBA transitioned into the 1980s, the physical intensity persisted and rivalries became even more charged. One notable example of this occurred in 1984 during a regular season game when tensions boiled over between the Boston Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers, culminating in a fiery altercation between Larry Bird and Julius Erving. Bird's competitive drive was on full display as he controlled the game, provoking visible frustration from Erving. The tension reached a breaking point during an altercation where both players threw punches, leading to their ejections and significant fines. This scuffle underscored the fierce competition between the Celtics and the 76ers, a rivalry that defined much of the decade. The 1980s also marked the rise of the Detroit Pistons' notorious Bad Boys era, a team that earned a reputation for their rough, physical style of play. Their approach frequently sparked clashes, particularly with the Chicago Bulls. In 1989, during the Eastern Conference Finals, physical confrontations between the Bulls and the Pistons became a hallmark of the series. While these games leaned more toward aggressive fouls and stifling defenses than outright fights, the mutual hostility was undeniable. The Pistons' strategy of physically exhausting opponents was instrumental in securing consecutive NBA titles in 1989 and 1990. As the NBA shifted into the 1990s, the game's intensity persisted. The Chicago Bulls, led by Michael Jordan, emerged as the league's dominant powerhouse. Yet, their journey to greatness wasn't without its fair share of turbulence. In 1993, during a heated regular season matchup against the Indiana Pacers, a now infamous clash erupted between Michael Jordan and Reggie Miller. It all began when Miller gave Jordan a shove following contested play, igniting a scuffle where the two players traded blows. This confrontation not only showcased the fierce competitive spirit that defined both athletes, but also highlighted the intense rivalry between their respective teams. The 1990s also brought one of the most notorious playoff melees in NBA history. In 1994, during the Eastern Conference semifinals, the Chicago Bulls went head-to-head with the New York Knicks. During Game 3, tensions flared as Derek Harper and JoJo English got into an on-court altercation that quickly escalated into a chaotic brawl. The fight even spilled into the stands, unfolding right in front of then NBA Commissioner David Stern. The aftermath saw several suspensions and hefty fines, illustrating both the high stakes and the raw emotions that playoff basketball tends to ignite. Moving into the 2000s, the NBA began evolving, with the league stepping up its enforcement of stricter regulations designed to minimize violent incidents on the court. Nonetheless, the fervor and intensity of the sport continued to produce some unforgettable clashes. The 2000s and beyond delivered numerous explosive incidents that gripped fans' attention and left an enduring mark on the NBA. One of the most infamous moments, known as the Malice at the Palace, unfolded on November 19, 2004, during a matchup between the Indiana Pacers and Detroit Pistons at the Palace of Auburn Hills. With the game nearing its conclusion, Ron Artest committed a hard foul against Ben Wallace, sparking a heated shoving match. The situation took a shocking turn when a fan hurled a drink at Artest, provoking him to storm into the stands. What ensued was pure chaos, with players and spectators clashing in a full-scale brawl. This controversial event led to severe consequences, including Artest being suspended for the remainder of the season and substantial fines being imposed. To this day, the Malice at the Palace stands as a stark reminder of how quickly tensions on the court can spiral into mayhem. Fast forward to 2006, another infamous altercation erupted between the Denver Nuggets and New York Knicks at Madison Square Garden. With the Nuggets in firm control of the game, a hard foul by Marty Collins of the Knicks on J.R. Smith ignited a skirmish that swiftly escalated. The melee escalated to the point where players such as Carmelo Anthony and Nate Robinson began trading punches. The altercation led to a series of fines and suspensions, with Anthony receiving the harshest punishment, a 15-game suspension, the longest handed out among all players involved. As the NBA transitioned into the 2010s, fierce rivalries continued to fuel on-court clashes. One notable incident occurred in 2012 during a tense matchup between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. During the game, Metta World Peace, formerly known as Ron Artest, threw a brutal elbow to James Harden's head, igniting a brief scuffle. This act earned World Peace a 7-game suspension, underscoring the league's ongoing efforts to address issues with player conduct. The 2010s also marked the emergence of the Golden State Warriors, a team distinguished by their fast-paced offense and fiery competitiveness. In 2017, during a game against the Washington Wizards, a physical confrontation erupted between Draymond Green and Bradley Beal. The scuffle began when Beal fouled Green, escalating into a brawl that sent both players tumbling into the stands. Both players were fined as a result, illustrating the fine line between intense competition and physical disputes. More recently, tensions and conflict continue to be part of the NBA's narrative. In a 2019 matchup between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Minnesota Timberwolves, tensions flared when Joel Embiid and Karl Anthony Towns clashed in a fiery confrontation. What began as a physical play beneath the hoop swiftly escalated into an all-out wrestling match on the hardwood. Both players were ultimately removed from the game and given 2-game suspensions, underscoring the ever-present intensity of NBA rivalries. Of all the notable brawls in NBA history, however, the infamous Malice at the Palace remains one of the most talked-about altercations among fans. Reactions online range from humorous to provocative. One user on X-Red described the chaos as though the game itself never stopped, while another commented, "This S**** still gets the adrenaline pumping." Yet another remarked, "More fans need their *** hooped if you ask me." In contrast, a fan in 2024 quipped that players in today's NBA lack the passion to engage in fights like that anymore. Amusing as such reflections might be, the NBA's long history of on-court scuffles is as vibrant as the sport itself, stretching back to its rugged beginnings. During the 1950s and 1960s, basketball players operated in a rough-and-tumble environment, where aggressive fouls and heated altercations were considered routine parts of the game. Athletes such as Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell gained recognition not just for their remarkable abilities, but also for their relentless drive, which occasionally escalated into physical altercations. As the NBA progressed throughout the 1970s and 1980s, the frequency and severity of these clashes only grew. Over the years, the way these incidents are perceived has transformed. What was once criticized as a negative mark on the league is now frequently interpreted as evidence of the fiery passion and determination that defines the NBA. If you like this video, feel free to click on any of the cards displayed on your screen to explore more content.